Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the Heal Yourself, Heal Your Life challenge. So, today we're looking at discerning how to hear the voice of our soul. So, how do we live our soul purpose? So, I just want to kind of recap a little bit of what we covered yesterday. And so, yesterday we looked at the whole concept of soul purpose and soul essence. And we talked about how important it is to live from our soul essence. And so we're going to look today at, well, how do we discern when we are living in our purpose, or how do we discern when we are living in our soul essence? So when you are living on purpose means that you're living your soul essence energies. So it's important to be able to connect with those energies. It's important for those energies to be able to flow into our lives, into our body, so that then we can make decisions and we can behave in accordance with that energy, in alignment with that energy. And then, of course, we express that particular energy in all facets of our lives. And so when we start feeling negativity in a lot of different ways, whether it's confusion or depression or anger or fear, usually it has a lot to do with that disconnection to that power, to that energy that is inherently us. And so we call that disconnection soul eclipsing. And so yesterday, what you did, so we took one step in uh, identifying our soul essence energy and looking at one statement that you grew up with that didn't resonate with you. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to be working with that particular statement. And really what we're doing is we're moving our awareness from external awareness, so from listening to what other people have to say and how we should behave, to an internal awareness. So that's what we're doing today, is we are recognizing, okay, living from our soul essence means that it's coming from inside of us. It's coming from us. That's something that we are. Therefore, we need to pay attention to that voice, to that energy. And we're going to call it a voice just because we're going to communicate with it. So we're going to use language to communicate. So we want to think of it as a voice, but it's communication. So depending on how you're able to communicate, that's fine. You don't necessarily need to hear a voice talking to you. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're moving from external to internal. Now, why are we using those statements? Well, because what we've done is we've internalized those statements as truths for ourselves, and because we've done that, like, things haven't gone so well for us because they're not completely allowing us to express our soul essence in its entirety. So we may be expressing parts of it and not parts of it. Now, depending on the statement that you chose, there may be some complexities as you start exploring it. There may be some truths to it. So you may start looking at, well, that part is true, but this part is not true. And that's okay. Like, that's what we want to start doing, is we want to start separating, like, what is resonating with your soul essence and what doesn't resonate with it. And so identifying it, so that then you can know when you are actually living that soul essence energy. Once you're able to identify that soul essence energy, then you're much more able, like, it's a lot easier to make decisions and take action based on that knowledge and that awareness of what that energy is. Okay, so what we're doing is we're coming back into ourselves. We're going into that internal awareness. And because we are moving that internal awareness inside, then we are more likely connected to the essence of our soul, because our soul essence is not going to be on the outside. So we need to shift that awareness. We need to shift our attention inside, because again, our soul communication, that essence energy is coming from inside of us. So one of the things that we want to do is we want to think about, well, how does this statement impact my life? And so we are going to start examining that, and we're going to be using questions to examine that particular belief or that statement that you chose. And so what you're doing is you are doing some self-inquiry, and by asking questions, and the reason why we use a question is because a question elicits a response. A question elicits an answer versus just using a statement. So in answering the questions and using the questions and then letting an answer kind of come forth, then you're starting to get a sense of what that soul energy is. You're starting to get a sense of what the message is that's starting to come through. So what you want to do is you want to start feeling this knowingness, like this truth emanating from you, coming from deep inside of you. So when you start answering the questions, don't worry about answering them in complete sentences, or if just images come forth or particular words come forth or certain sensations come forth, you can just use and jot those down. Okay, so don't necessarily make yourself journal in complete sentences. Just however the information is coming through is fine. So really what we're looking at through the questions is how this particular belief or this particular statement has affected your life. And then what results you have gotten from that particular statement. Now, you may have gotten some results and not others. So like I said, usually statements that, especially if you chose one that is a real zinger for you, there's going to be elements of truth and not truth. And so there's going to be parts of your energy that resonates with parts of it as you start exploring, and then with not parts of it. And that's okay for you to do, because that's what you want to start getting at, the specificity, at the actual essence of your energy. And so we're going to look at particular memories and so on. So what I want to do is I want to take you through an example. So using these questions, and then I'm going to give you an example of a client that I worked with, and through looking at these particular questions, looking at a particular belief, and then looking at the questions, we were able to, or she was able to come to recognize, oh, like this is the message that my soul is giving me. This is the essence energy that I need to work with, and here's where I should be turning my attention. And then things started to shift for her quite considerably after that. Okay, so she, when we looked at this particular activity, her statement was, and her belief was, it is my responsibility to take care of my father. Right, so she's focused on her relationship with her father. So I asked her, well, how has this belief affected you? So she talked about how she was always worried about him. Like he has a very high stress and a job, a quite dangerous job where he needs to be traveling for long periods of time. And so she always feels like she needs to be checking on him, that she's worried about him and when he comes back, like how he's going to be. And she's worried about his health because she knows that he doesn't take care of himself when he's traveling, and so on. And so she always has this, so it occupies a lot of her mind and energy, worrying about her father while he is working, and feeling like she needs to do something to help him. So that she's responsible for making sure that he's okay. And so that was that particular question. So then we moved on to the question, well, how does it make you feel? Well, it made her feel helpless. It made her feel angry. So helpless because there wasn't much that she could do. Like no matter what she tried to do, he wouldn't listen to her, right? And so then she would get angry at the fact that he wouldn't listen to her and that he would still do his own thing. Like he continue doing his own thing. So it made her feel like she didn't really have any control. And so And so then that made her feel helpless. It made her even feel a little depressed. So she started examining her feelings around this particular issue, this particular statement that she had. So then we moved on. So what memory do you have, do you think about when you think about this particular statement? So she shared, that she thought about the last time that he got sick, and how worried she was about him, and how what the doctors told him that he should be doing to take better care of his health, and so on. And so we talked about that memory. And again, that memory brought back those feelings of anger and helplessness and so on, because, again, like there was not much that she could do. And so then we moved on to the next question. So why do you feel this is wrong? So, what is it that you're feeling like when, so we looked at, well, what exactly are you feeling now, right? So what is the sensation that you are feeling? So then this brought up, like, it's too much pressure, right? It's too much pressure for me. Like, he doesn't listen to me. I start feeling this pressure in my heart because I worry about him and I really love him and I want him to be around for a long time. And so, and I said, well, what would make it feel right? So we looked at that next question, at that last question, what would make it feel right? And she said, well, if he took care of himself. And I said, okay, what can you control? So what would make it feel right that you can control? Because remember, we're looking at ourselves and we are bringing that awareness internally. It says, well, what would make it feel better is if I didn't feel responsible for him, right? If I didn't feel responsible. And so then what was interesting is then we started exploring where else she felt like she needed to take care, that it was her responsibility to take care of other people, right? So she needed to make sure, like, to teach her boss how to appreciate her. Like, she needed to be able to teach her her stepchildren to respect her, right? Or to teach. So she started to look at all these ways in which this particular belief was showing up in her life. So it's not just her father, but it was in other areas. And usually you're going to find that this belief or this particular statement is affecting multiple areas of your life. And usually those feelings are going to be similar. So she felt anger, she felt helpless in all of these other arenas as well. So then we looked at, okay, well, how are we going to shift that? So what would make it feel right? Well, not feeling responsible. So ultimately, well, who are you responsible for? And so ultimately it was like, okay, I'm responsible for me. Like, I'm responsible for how I take care of myself. And so one of the things that she discovered is that she was trying to take care of her father, but she wasn't taking care of herself because she was spending so much time taking care of her father. And so then in discovering that, the message, like her soul, her essence was saying, like, you need to be taking care of yourself. How can you turn that attention back into taking care of you? And so then that's how her energy started to shift and how her life started to change, because she started listening to that nudge. So in fact, what happened is that she was getting this message to take care of, but what she did is she externalized it, right? She said, I need to take care of all of these other people and not take care of myself. Like, she didn't read, right? She didn't understand that message, that message was really for her. It was about her. And so once she was able to shift that attention, then she was able to start shifting her life and making considerable shifts. So a lot of things happened to her. So She was able to shift her work environment so that it was more conducive to how she wanted to feel. She was able to release the fact that she wasn't responsible for her father, that she could love her father without feeling like she had to take care of him. Like, he's an adult, he makes his choices, and she can love him regardless of what he chooses. And she was also able to buy her dream house and all of it. So her life really started to shift by starting to pay attention to these nudges, so to these messages that she was getting from her soul. And just instead of externalizing those messages, really thinking about how that applied to herself. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to try that same activity and see how you can, what discoveries you make based on this particular excavation. And so what we're doing is we're getting to the center, right? We're getting to understanding ourselves by first looking outside and then turning that, because and why do we look outside? Because if something is resonating with us or not resonating with us and we're paying attention to it outside, there's a message there for us. And so the skill, right, what we need to be able to do is bring that internally. So bring that attention back into ourselves and then start saying, how does that apply to me? Like, what is it? What is the nugget? Like, what is the gold that's here for me, and that my soul is trying to get me to pay attention to? Because there's something there. There's something that's important. There's something that is critical for you to start making the shifts that you want to do. And of course, this is something that you can do, take this series of questions through multiple iterations, and then you'll start seeing patterns. So I'd love for you to share with me, what is the discoveries, like what are the discoveries that you are making? Like, I know they may be fairly personal, and they may get really deep, and you may in fact journal a lot of information based on the questions. And so one technique is also like to keep going back to the questions to answer a little bit, and then go to a different question, answer a little bit, and then go back to like question number 2, and then answer more there. And so the more you excavate, the more information, the more that you start discovering. And so what that does again is and the reason why I call it excavation is because what you're doing is you're wanting to release the flow of your soul communication. So that connection is we already have it, like we're already connected, but something is blocking. So what we're doing is we're excavating, we're removing what those things are to start letting that energy start flowing more easily, so that we can discern that. And then once we start living with that particular knowledge, then we know that we're living on purpose, and we start feeling it. Not just do we start seeing it in the results that we get in our lives, but we start feeling it in just our own well-being, our mental well-being, and our kind of emotional and psychic well-being. So all of that is also starting to be affected. So what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to take this one step deeper. And in fact, I will reveal some of the things that we were doing today that's part of this roadmap. So remember, what we're doing is we're looking at the roadmap for healing. And so we are going to look at, tomorrow, we're going to look at discovering your one true ally in your soul journey. And in fact, you were already starting to connect with that ally today. And so tune in tomorrow so that you can hear more about, find out more about this particular ally, and then how this ally actually helps you in your life. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I look forward to hearing your discoveries from your excavation today, and post your questions. in the comments, and I'm looking forward to reading them. I can make comments if you have particular questions. That may be some that I can answer tomorrow. And then we are going to go deeper with this particular statement. So again, we're taking one mini step at a time so that we can start looking at this particular roadmap. And then of course, stay tuned for Friday, because Friday is when I'm putting the entire roadmap together. So I'm giving you all of it. So we're taking it piece by piece, and then you'll get the entire roadmap on Friday. So I'll share that with you then. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.